what I'm going to do is I will take questions at selected points. I will ask for questions, but I'm not going to take questions, every time somebody has one. Just, I'm going to go through a certain amount of material and then say, okay, now it's question time. Would somebody agree to be the keeper tracker of questioners?
I can do that.
Okay, who are we talking to?
Stan,
All right. So, yes, this particular thing was actually a spinoff from Neil deGrasse Tyson's quip about, for God's sake, if you've got the wherewithal to terraform Mars, you've got the wherewithal to solve the climate problem and terraform Earth. And I really liked that. So this is my takeoff from there. And I love the picture. I don't know where I found that, but I think it's a gorgeous picture.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the subtitle tells it climate remediation on a planetary scale. We're going big here. Now, we will go back to the first time that I encountered the notion of someone who was looking at climate remediation on a planetary scale. He wasn't just looking at, let's fix this river or, look at this particular source of emissions. He was looking at the whole world. And this was 2009. And Dr. Stephen Chu, who was an incredible, Nobel Prize and a fabulous scientist. Was the science advisor to the Obama administration. And somewhere early in the Obama administration, he suggested publicly that you could do a good job of climate remediation if everybody in the world painted their roofs white. And also he wanted roads and freeways. He said you don't want to really paint them, blindingly white because it'd be a problem with vision for the drivers, but as white as possible, as reflective as possible. And this would do an incredible amount to increase the albedo of planet Earth. And I assume you guys all know what albedo is. It's an astronomer's term for how reflective a body is. If you look at Mars has a particular albedo. You look at Pluto, it has a particular albedo, and it goes from 0, which is totally black. It reflecteth nothing. You don't see it, to 1, which is totally reflective. And you don't see that either. It would be a mirror out in space, but approaching 1 in albedo means that you're a very reflective body. And almost all of the climate remediation that we are trying to do consists of various ways to increase the albedo of planet Earth. Now, I mean, this was a fabulous idea. Requires no new inventions, no building of big stuff, dams or power satellites or, and completely benign, as he said. No changes in the atmosphere or what Earth is doing except how it's reflecting. All it required was a considerable amount of money, a lot of titanium dioxide, which is what we're using as white paint these days, having given up lead quite a while ago. A lot of money, a lot of titanium dioxide, and most of all, a lot of political will. Didn't happen. Choose Calculations in 2007 said that this project, essentially significantly increasing the Earth's albedo, if completed, would be the equivalent of cutting the total emissions of all the autos and trucks in the world for 11 years. I mean, that's a significant that's a significant change, a significant help in the albedo thing, but he couldn't get anybody behind it. And I will be taking your questions as soon as I finish with the chew thing. One of the things he didn't address at that time was the issue of people with solar panels on their roofs. And this was because back in 2007, there weren't that many people who had, I think Tom had his roof back then, but very few people. And it has become an issue now because solar power has decreased remarkably in cost over the last 20 years. And so, we're building out a lot with solar panels. But I would suggest that they should get a pass because they're preventing a lot of greenhouse gases being created by electrical power plants burning fossil fuels. And they can paint what isn't under the solar panels white. I mean, garages, the part of the roof that's not covered in solar panels, lay a white sheet over your back garden. And I think, yes, that's it. So we will take questions on the chew issue. Who's going to be calling on them?
Tom Trites.
Yeah, I'm the only one who put my hand up.
No, David
I
has his
remember.
hand up too.
Oh,
And so does Stan.
okay. I remember hearing about this and thinking that this was a first order solution to a multi-level problem. because having reflected the incoming sunlight, it goes back into the atmosphere. So I'm not sure how that
You think it's going to
where it's
bounce
going,
back
where it's,
over the bounce
I
back
don't
from the.
I don't see how it escapes the earth. This is a way of heating the atmosphere, not is what it seems to me. But
Well, they are
I
able to.
have not I am not positive. It's just the thing that what comes to mind is that energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's just bounced around.
Well,
So we're
yes.
going to bounce it off. We're going to bounce it off the earth, and where is it going to go? Into the
Well,
atmosphere.
what we are doing is countering the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is basically it comes in and it hits something dark and it heats that up. Whereas here, it comes in and it bounces right back. It does not heat up the earth. And they can calculate this because they look at the
Okay.
effect of the polar caps on Earth, the polar caps on Mars. They look at how much, those are reflecting.
Tom, do you
Okay.
think it could be there's a percentage of that light that does go back out of the atmosphere, or is just a partial? Is it a statistical number percent of the light that gets bounced that's trapped in the
Some
atmosphere?
well, it's obvious that there's part of it that leaves the atmosphere because when we go above the atmosphere and look down, we can see the ground. So there's light. Some of the light is leaving the atmosphere, but how much of it?
Makes it easier for the aliens to see the Earth.
It's
I think that
complicated,
if you shoot some
but Carol's
photons
correct.
at a piece of glass, I think I read this from a QED out of Feynman's book. If you shoot photons at a piece of glass, 4% of them reflect back towards the. There's the first surface of the glass, the near surface, and the second surface was the one that's on the far end of the thickness of the glass.
Yeah.
But it's not a all or nothing. There's a statistical value of light that goes out and stays in, kind of thing.
Well, certainly.
It's
I mean, white
complicated.
paint does not give you an albedo of 1. That would, you'd have to have a perfect mirror. So white paint is helping to increase the albedo of Earth, but it's not, doesn't make it 1.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
And-
not
and-
the whole story either.
David,
Now, these,
As you might expect, many of the roofs are pitched, and so it doesn't necessarily bounce the light straight back to space. It bounces it off to an angle. So going through more atmosphere gives you more chance for that light to hit an atom and be absorbed and be re-radiated in the infrared range, which is what we think of as heat. So it's not trivial.
no,
But
it's
the
not.
point that I wanted to make is that painting roofs is relatively inexpensive and doesn't have a lot of side effects so we pretty well understand those. It's not a silver bullet, if you want to put it that way, but it certainly could act as a silver buckshot,
Yeah, I
a
mean,
piece of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
what he said was, and I mean, the man is a damn good mathematician.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and he said this would be if everybody did it, this would be the equivalent of turning off all the emissions of all the, you know, trucks and automobiles in the world for 11 years. Now, that is significant. It does not solve the problem of climate change, but it helps. It's significant. And it is the first instance I ever saw of somebody who was tackling climate change on a worldwide basis.
Yeah.
Now, can anybody think of anything earlier than that? What that was looked at, suggested? Go ahead, whoever's calling on people, keep calling on.
Doug,
Yeah, Carol, I was going to ask it, and David kind of hit on it. So, is he saying it's just going to push back the visible light, or is it the infrared and ultraviolet also?
Well, actually, he got into this with some very great complications. He suggested that flat roofs, in which a lot of big buildings have flat roofs, are you just paint them white. But for slanted roofs, like on this house here, he talked about more specialized paints that would actually show up as different colors than white, but were better at bouncing back stuff on a slant.
What would be cool, and I know they're still working on it, is the fact that they're talking about developing solar production, energy production out of paint. And I was thinking, man, if that would absorb, the sun and produce energy in one spectrum, and then bounce back the other unusable, that could be another major advantage. And I know that they're, for a number of years they've been talking painting houses. They're also saying in the future we'll be able to paint cars, and the cars will actually produce energy from that paint.
Yep.
So that would be a major step forward, it seems like.
It's also been mentioned that in places like Greece, Italy, where the weather is very warm, a lot of people already have their roofs painted white
Yeah,
because it keeps the inside of the house cooler.
yep, exactly.
And Chu did mention somewhere along here, and I forgot to talk about it, that this also would decrease the amount of air conditioning that you needed to do. And air conditioning creates heat, out in the atmosphere. You're not producing cold, you're pumping your heat out the window.
Plus the energy to
Yeah.
produce the electricity in the beginning.
Yep. So, this would have a really good effect on the environment and almost no downside that I can see.
Dang it.
William,
The very fact that we see it as white is conclusive proof that the light being reflected back is broad spectrum. And therefore will a lot of it, except a lot of it will escape from the environment.
Again, this kind of thing has been calculated by looking at the albedos of polar caps on this world, on Mars, on other planets. We've got some really decent calculations on what a white reflecting surface will do to increase the albedo.
David,
Carol, you asked if anybody had looked at before 2007. And yes, this goes back quite a bit previous to that. The
You
Amory
mean
Lovins has been
the
looking at
into
how
your
we
roof's
produce
white notion?
electricity for 50 years.
Say again.
Amory Lovins has been looking at the issue of how we produce electricity for the last 50 years and was writing back 40 years ago about how hydrogen would be a better energy transfer fuel
Okay.
than fossil fuels. The federal
I did not
government has been,
realize that he was doing it that long ago.
I'm sorry?
No, I mean, I'm asking for stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that the first book I saw of his regarding fossil fuel use and the long-term effects goes back toward the 1974 fuel crisis.
Oh, yeah, all the lines at the gas stations.
Yep. So it's part of the development of the cost decrease in photovoltaic cells is because the federal government was subsidizing that research in the United States after the fuel crisis in the early 1970s.
Okay, can you give me this fellow's name, or can you put it in chat?
Amory Lovins, Lovins.
Amory?
He and Paul Hawken and Amory's wife at the time wrote a book called Natural Capitalism.
Yes, yes, yes.
And around
Natural
capitalism in around 2000.
And I've actually been in Amory's house, which is so cool.
Is
Okay,
that the
and
one
he
at the
was
top of
talking
the
about
mountain?
a hydrogen economy for energy transfer.
Yep.
Great.
Dean,
I'm up. Oh, I'm unmuted. Are we done with this live? I came
Yes.
in late. Yeah, I'd love to see your lovely faces, and you'll have to put up with seeing mine. I don't know who's sharing, but um, yeah,
Carole,
I mean, have none of you ever flown over Phoenix, for crying out loud? I have probably 100, 150 times,
Flown
and
over what?
flown over Arizona
Oh,
or Florida, and they have for decades, many decades, because their neighbors put up a white roof, painted the roof right, or shingled it white, and he said, hey, my AC bills are 30% less. I
yep.
mean, it's just pure economics. Florida, same thing. We can always tell a car from Arizona because it's a white SUV, because a black car parked in the desert will get to 200 or 100 and God knows, yeah. No, it's a no-brainer. But so the issue here about with Chu or somebody, this slide that somebody keeps sharing, and I wish I didn't have to
Yes,
watch.
this one that I'm talking about
Yeah,
here.
but can we unshare that? Who's ever doing it? I mean, or do you have something more? I'm grumpy. I didn't get enough sleep last night. Uh,
Okay, you want me to make this slide go away or the whole
I
thing?
want well, whoever is sharing, just briefly stop sharing. Are you doing the sharing, Carol?
Yes.
Okay. Is it inconvenient for you to stop share, start share?
Well, yes, I mean, I'm going to go on to the next section.
All right, I'm waiting with bated breath. But yeah, so the issue, no, and I know I've heard the same thing about typically industrial commercial buildings have, you don't see black roofs up there. They are traditionally light or white. And yeah, and then when they fill them with solar panels, which they do, that changes what's the word? The albino
Albedo,
albedo, yeah.
Albedo, and it's
Right,
basically an astronomer's term. That's
right,
where
yeah,
it
yeah. The
originated.
reflectivity of a body and et cetera, et cetera. Um, but yeah, I mean um, there is somebody has done the math on the effect of putting all those what look like us dark solar panels up there. But also remember that it is absorbing some of that energy. But solar panels don't run on infrared. Uh, yeah, but no, I have heard talk about this before, that there is an effect uh, to buildings having nothing, every building and every structure being a solar panel, which more and more they are. So
Right.
They, they now have some panels, Dean, that are working on infrared and ultraviolet. So it's starting.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard. Mhm.
Tom Trites.
I, how can I say this? Over the part of America which doesn't really have what we consider winter, I can see how this can help. But here in Minnesota, this the you're going to save money because your air conditioning costs are going to go down, but I think your heating costs are going to go up in the winter. But Tom can probably actually tell us
Yeah.
about that because he's got that kind of a house.
Tom Walsh.
Okay, this is an interesting approach. It's been around for quite a while, but I think it's bass backward. really we should stop pumping heat into the atmosphere ourselves by burning fossil fuels and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And the other question is, no one really knows what kind of effect this would have on plants and other growing things. Would it reduce the growth of crops and plants and trees and that kind of stuff, which would have a detrimental effect?
Well, wait a
Um,
minute. Why would painting roofs white
no,
affect plants?
I'm talking about the titanium dioxide. Well, I'm talking about um, put making increasing the albedo of Earth by affecting the atmosphere. Have you been talking about that, or are you just talking about painting stuff white?
We are talking about painting stuff white as a way of increasing the albedo.
Okay, because there have been proposals to seed the atmosphere to make it that more reflective too. And I thought that's what you were trying to get at one point.
No, I talk about that much, much later when we get to the problem of melting permafrost. But we haven't been talking about that now.
Okay, I would say probably the guy who's been talking about this, one of the earliest on a worldwide scale was Al Gore.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
And
An inconvenient truth.
yes, and he was ahead of his time, which is unfortunate for him politically, apparently. But what really killed him was the Supreme Court, of course, when he ran for president. Yeah, he was a remarkable guy, and he had a lot of interesting proposals, none of which came to fruition, unfortunately.
Okay, well now when was an inconvenient truth?
2005.
What?
2005.
2005. Okay. So that would have preceded Chu by a little bit.
Yeah.
Tom, by the way, your picture is really narrow. I don't know if that's what you
Well,
want.
that's because I'm on my phone because my PC has a virus.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, well, I have a comment. 3M makes this reflective material that you see on road signs and on the highway,
Uh-huh.
which is super reflective. I don't know whether that's not titanium oxide. I think that titanium oxide is just what you use in white paint, like
Yeah,
you have in a house.
titanium dioxide has replaced the lead-based paints that we used to get white from.
Okay, well, what I wanted to mention is that do you think that that extra reflectivity, which I see seems to me substantial, that the 3M product is that makes it super reflective would be an option as well? I guess I'm wondering if that would be a better option to increase the reflectivity on the house.
Well, it would be better, but what would the relative cost be?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, white paint is pretty cheap. And I imagine that this super 3M reflective stuff might be not so cheap.
I bought some of those signs for my driveway and whatnot, and they're about $20 a square foot. Yeah, it's very, very expensive.
The other side of that is that they use what Stan was talking about. They use it in solar tubes, and they collect the energy on the roof and then transfer it down the light down into the house or even into the basement and everything, because that reflectivity of that material is unbelievable. You can actually bend it and everything, and it keeps moving the light along the path. So
Yeah, let me back that up. I just saw a thing on a solar tube going in, and it had a solar. So it was just a skylight that bends around, and yeah, this super reflectivity. I mean, and so they actually it comes with a optional solar nightlight that just sits in the 8-inch, 12-inch tube, whatever it is, and gets charged up all day and then goes on at night until the batteries die.
yeah,
I mean,
I bought one for
there's
my
no
son.
reason, there's no reason that people with more money and more interest in being good environmentalists could not cover their roof in expensive, superbly reflective stuff. I mean, but we could not compel everybody to do that because it would simply cost too much.
The,
My question is, what percentage of the Earth's surface is covered by roofs? 1%?
Well, he had roofs and roads and highways,
Ah,
freeways.
yeah,
I can go back a little bit.
So maybe 2%.
exactly.
Okay. The calculations Chu did in 2007 said that this project, if completed, would be the equivalent of cutting the total emissions of all the autos and trucks in the world for 11 years.
Cutting by
11
how
years
much?
per year? I don't get
No,
its math.
it just, it's a way of measuring it, relative to something that we care about, which are emissions.
I agree. It is real and it is measurable. How incremental it is, I'm not certain, but
This does not solve the problem, you know, and,
Right.
and it was never suggested as the solution to climate change. It
yeah,
simply, this would help, and it's cheap and easy.
yep.
David,
And relatively limited in its potential side effects, unexpected consequences.
Yes.
And if we spend this much time talking about each slide, we're never going to see half of Carole's slides. Carole,
Yeah.
would you like to finish this presentation in a few weeks, like 3?
Okay, shall I go on?
Please.
Okay. Now, this is Carole's solution to the problem of climate change remediation. I think we can't do it without having power satellites in geosynchronous orbit. And okay, if we had power satellites in geosynchronous orbit, this would enable us to stop burning fossil fuels to produce electricity. No more fossil fuel burning. None. We'd be able to convert all vehicles to electric vehicles. And our guy last time, the guy who talked about various climate change things and how they were affecting the world, mentioned the fact that there was this drought in Syria, for 4 or 5 years, really bad crop failures, everything like that. And it led to incredible disastrous political consequences. And okay, you got a power satellite in orbit. And you've got that problem in Syria. They desperately need rain. and you point the power satellite at the Mediterranean, somewhere close to Syria, and you start boiling it off. And boiling it off produces clouds and clouds and clouds of fresh water. And you've got a windmill floating, and you blow that back and you produce rain over the area that you want to produce rain. What was this? David is looking like he wants to choke me.
I
David,
would really prefer to see us discuss a wide variety of possible choices before we pick the winner. It strikes me that power satellites in orbit probably have some unintended consequences and absolutely have some high costs.
Yes.
And I
And I am going to run through briefly why I chose this and what I have seen as the best alternative offered and why I think this is better. So
Okay.
if we can go on to that.
And that's fine, but I'd like to see a wide variety of low-cost options explored before we choose the most expensive technological solution we can find. If we lost our civilization entirely, we would lose the capability of performing this solution. And oh, by the way, we'd stop using fossil fuels and the problem would go away.
Yeah. Okay, I do address somewhat the issue of why this. So let me get through that and then you can criticize it. How's that?
Carole, just one quick question. Are you going to get to the water side of things? Because looking at the Colorado River right now, it looks like that's going to be one of the major things that hits our country in the near future. You going to get into that at all?
Only in the sense that we can, using this methodology, we can create fresh water wherever we need it. Lots of it.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I mean, there are a bunch of desalinization plants along the California coast now that are giving us fresh water, but not in this kind of abundance.
Yeah, it's just, I just heard the other day on the news that now the states are fighting over who's going to get what's left of the Colorado River. And it just made me think about water looks like it's going to be a immediate issue more than anything.
And I have actually seen proposals where those bastards are talking about running a pipeline from Lake Superior
Yeah.
to the Colorado River and stealing it.
Yeah. I don't mean to get us off topic.
Yeah, no,
No, thank you for that, because that is on the news out here. Because the
yeah,
states cannot
but
agree.
again,
There's been a battle. Let me finish. There's been a battle over war since
the ability to produce fresh water as rain at will would practically solve that problem. Okay.
that the next war will be fought over water, not oil.
Yep.
Okay. And I will mention for the obligatory SF reference a book called The Water Knife by Paulo something unpronounceable. It's been around for about 10 years now and is a very good look at a just slightly future society. Okay. Now, the notion of keeping the Gulf Stream going so that Northern Europe does not freeze over struck me as this would be the solution for that. And here we go. Avoiding the collapse of the Gulf Stream. And these days, the technology gets weird. When they talk about AMOC, A-M-O-C, that's Atlantic Meridian something something. And that's the portion of this thing that is the cold salt water that sinks and goes back toward the equator to be warmed up and sent over the top of the water back to warm Northern Europe. So the Gulf Stream is kind of, on the top, the air, and the Atlantic Meridian, whatever, is the water that's gotten to Northern Europe, warmed it, and now it's colder and saltier, and it sinks, and it goes back toward the equator. And this is just a very brief description of what goes on there. What might cause the collapse? Meltwater from the Arctic and Greenland slows the AMOC by preventing the formation of deep currents in the North Atlantic that drive the circulation south toward Antarctica. Deep currents form when masses of cold, salty water sink to the seabed. But inputs of fresh water and rising water temperatures are blocking this step by diluting and warming surface waters. And I don't know if any of you remember this, but in a long ago discussion of the possible collapse of the Gulf Stream, I made the suggestion that we might prevent this by having a whole lot of desalinization plants along the Greenland coast and the North Atlantic coast, producing tons of fresh water as which you blow back toward places like Syria, Israel, Lebanon, places that desperately need rain. And that would
put Southern California on that list, please.
That would increase the salinity of the water left behind and help to avoid the collapse. Now, obviously, using the satellite to boil off seawater as needed while blowing the clouds inland would accomplish this quicker, easier, cheaper, and would also help with sea level rise. So, a suggestion. Okay, so that's the whole thing about avoiding the collapse. We can take questions on that now.
Dean,
Yeah, is Atlantic Meridional overturning circulation is what AMOC stands for.
Okay.
El Nino, La Nina, Humboldt current, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And I'm sure all of you have seen the colored graphs and everything, and this is just, another suggestion of how to do planetary engineering if you've got those satellites.
And a quick follow-up. So we're talking about boiling the ocean in
Yes,
one spot and everything in between the satellite and the ocean, right? I mean, we're talking about sending heat generating energy from
well,
space.
the normal thing that's talked about is microwave transmission.
Okay.
And I am told that they can rig this so that, a bird can fly through the beam and not be harmed. It's only right at the end where,
I'll ask the bird, but yeah, you mean by focusing it. Yep.
yeah,
What about the
it's
fish?
only right at the end where it's focused and you're boiling off water.
Yeah. What about the fish indeed?
Well, they weren't going to have a problem, but you're doing this in a very small area. A couple of two or three cubic.
It's all connected.
Well, of course, it's all connected, but I doubt that you're going to be harming the fish at the other end of the Mediterranean much.
Nature adapts.
Well, Carol,
It has to.
when you use the word boiling, that's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. You mean just mildly warming the ocean so it's more productive in terms of creating water vapor, I think.
It's higher than 212 for saline water, Stan.
I was suggesting actually boiling it
Hmm.
as the quickest way to produce rain.
And then you're assuring that the winds are going to blow in the right direction.
No, I am going to have floating turbines that assure that the wind blows in the right direction.
How are you going to power? Well, anyway.
I
I think
have some
surface.
suspicions about the costs of this operation. And I'm fairly sure that the reason the microwave is absorbed is because they have specialized antennas that are tuned to the frequency that you're looking for. And those are not going to be available necessarily where you want them. The
You can't
idea
go
that
out
you
there
would,
with a boat and put them there?
well, there are costs associated with every step of this process.
Of course.
I
But
would need to see a calculation of those costs before I would even venture a guess that we could manage to do intentionally what nature does for us, quote, naturally. The amount of energy reaching the earth in the form of solar energy is huge compared to the total energy used by all of mankind on earth right now. We get enough in an hour to feed our economy all year.
Yep.
Yep.
It's just an order of magnitude thing. And the amount of fresh water that's melted off of the Greenland ice cap in a year is also relatively huge.
that's why I am suggesting relatively huge remediations.
Might be cheaper to transfer icebergs to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a huge problem also.
Yeah.
Tom, try.
Most of the Earth's atmosphere is above 500 feet in local altitude, and we are influencing really its flowing anywhere. The wind blows where the wind blows. And while we're going to make steam clouds and we're going to blow them not very far, I would think. That just doesn't seem like a rational plot. I mean, people have maybe you could. I'm
Carole, is this
skeptical of it.
Carole, is this your thoughts, or is there someone else that's proposed this?
This is pretty much my idea.
Okay.
As I say, I first came up with the notion of doing it with desalinization plants in a discussion a year or so ago. And then when I was looking at having the power satellite in orbit, that looked so much easier.
Define easy.
Yeah, this is pretty much my notion.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Could
you.
I describe for you someone else's attempt to modify the weather?
Sure.
The Chinese apparently have set up on the Tibetan Plateau a series of burners that put smoke into the air with the idea of, and I believe it's iodine, and they're basically cloud seeding the Himalayas with the idea of using nature's wind patterns to change where the moisture comes out of the atmosphere. Needless to say, this is of some concern to Bangladesh and India and some of the other countries in the area. It's complicated. It's not clear what the costs are likely to be, but we are already attempting to influence the weather.
Yes.
I'd like to see some other low-cost possibilities for geoengineering the Earth.
I would
as
love
I
to see
understand there
some
are a
other
few.
low-cost ideas. I haven't. Bring them up. You know?
I just did a quick search online. I asked the Gemini, how large is the size of the solar panel array needed to power all the world's energy needs? Okay. And what it replied back to me is that the power of all humanity's total energy, primary energy needs, including electricity, heating, and transport using modern solar panels, is roughly 190,000 square miles, which would be the equivalent of a solar panel array 436 miles on each side.
And
Or the
that's
size of
just with
Spain.
today's technology.
Yep.
Or the size of Spain. Now, I want to add one more caveat to that. If you were to eliminate the amount of energy that's required to create and develop and transport fossil fuel, you would probably need less solar panel. In other words, there's a lot of I mean, if you think about how much fuel is used to transfer fuel around in trucks, and the cost is just enormous, and that's really something that the oil companies don't want you to know about, think about. But
And the cost of providing energy from fossil fuels mostly goes up the smokestack as waste heat.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
this goes back to those sand ski charts that we were describing at one time. Whereas the new renewable thing, and I'm going to throw a little ad in for next week. I think the sodium ion battery is going to make a huge change to grid storage, but we'll talk more about that next week because that's my topic is sodium ion batteries for grid storage for next week.
Oh, I am looking forward to that.
How
I'm
about
not,
how about
I'm not,
using? Go ahead.
I'm not sure if my hand is up because I can't tell on the phone here. But it strikes me that
It's not,
um,
but we hear you.
adding energy to boil the oceans, although it could have some local effects by producing rain in certain desired areas, uh, will not solve the heating problem because it'll increase the heating of the earth. It's simple thermodynamics. You're not going to reduce the heating by boiling the oceans.
No.
So I don't think this is a solution really to anything.
I think, Carole, you had an epiphany, and I appreciate that. I get them all the time. But I could say there are two things, and I don't mean to be cruel. It sounds like the tail trying to wag the dog here to a little bit, and possibly wishful thinking.
Or Carol's going to do a startup of these satellite companies. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm up next if Tom is done. I mentioned, I think last week or a week ago, about a serious thing where drones can be rainmakers. And there's a company, a startup that's, rain to order, dial 1-800-RAIN.com or whatever. And through adding whatever it is that they do and their new materials, where they can produce with the right circumstances, and they have demonstrated it. But guess what? It depends on Mother Nature's cooperation, and she ain't always cooperative, but always wins in the end. But yeah, that they can produce local rain. And then real quick, and then I'll shut the heck up. With this super, maybe mega El Nino that we see coming right now, which may be the largest El Nino ever recorded in human history, or since we've been able to
Track it. Yeah.
track it exactly. And that might solve the Colorado snowmelt thing for a while. We might be getting record rainfalls. We might be getting record droughts, and probably a mix of both. But all we know is the times they are changing.
Okay. Can I go on?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. We are right on the verge of being able to put up such satellites. The original idea, which was patented by Peter Glaser back in the 1960s, for the satellite sending power to Earth. We are right on the verge. I have a previous presentation, which you guys can go back and look at now that they're online, which is titled Space-Based Solar Power, the Road to Solving the Climate Crisis and Supplying Earth with Limitless Clean Electrical Power. So, I've been talking about this for a while. And speaking of people being right on the verge, I am going to show one video here from a previous presentation of mine that was titled China Claims Solar Power from Space and Moon Base Build in 10 to 25 Years. And I'm going to show this video because it shows that China is right on the verge of being able to actually put up one of these satellites. And it also gives a beautiful description of what such a satellite would look like and do. So I think this is an extremely useful video. David.
Whenever I read things like limitless power, I have to say that strikes me as unlikely. High quantities and how much it is, that I might buy. But limitless isn't gonna happen. Okay? And I agree. It's interesting to hear China claim solar power from space and moon base build in 10 to 25 years. Absolutely worth looking at as a possibility. Whether or not it will be the cheapest possibility in 10 years is wildly open to question. The prices of putting satellites up are going to come down significantly in the next 10 years. But the price of photovoltaic panels has already come down hugely.
90%.
98%.
Oh,
Wow.
How can you, and it's not done yet. That's the big deal. It's not done yet. So you're competing with a moving target. The whole reason that the solar power towers failed in California was because they couldn't compete economically with solar photovoltaic panels.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, those panels only use roughly 1/5 of the solar energy that hits them. And now Europe is looking at tapping some of the rest of that 80% of the energy.
yep.
Broad
Depending
spectrum.
on how the costs shake out and how the engineering trade-offs work over the next 10 years, we're going to find out what kinds of things really make a difference. If you look at fresh water, and particularly the Colorado River, they're still trying to make the rules that were formed 50 years ago work.
Yeah.
And the
Closer
amount of
to
water
100.
coming into the Colorado
Closer to
Colorado
100,
River
David.
isn't what it was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a political problem. The bigger problem
And-
is that we're spending 70% of our fresh water growing food. That's a huge problem in some places. Worldwide, we're managing pretty well. We have an economic problem worldwide. People can't afford food. Some people can't even afford water. Many of the governments worldwide are subsidizing water, but they can't afford to subsidize water for agriculture the way they can afford to subsidize water for drinking. Again, a political problem worth discussing, but probably not as part of geoengineering.
Well, I am looking at the geoengineering as a way to produce great amounts of fresh water.
But you're using even greater amounts of energy to do it. And I think solar stills at ground level has a better possibility of solving our problems for drinking water. And the potential of changing the way we provide food so that it doesn't require huge amounts of water has the potential for solving some of our food problems. And transitioning from fossil fuels to renewables and maybe nuclear, but probably not, has the potential for solving our problems with global heating.
David, nobody would be more thrilled than me to have somebody come up with a cheaper, easier solution so that we didn't need this. I would be thrilled, but I'm not seeing it.
Well, maybe looking at some of the potential trends. I'm reminded of the quote fact that nuclear power from fusion has
Yep.
been 10 to 20 years away for
For
the
the last 50
70.
years.
It
But there are some
all,
units starting, right, David?
they're
Japan,
making progress.
yeah,
Yes.
Japan's got one that,
I think the one Stan's talking about next week is enabling solar power to be more extensively used at lower cost. Again, that moving target that I was talking about. One thing about nuclear fusion, I really like that 93 million mile safety factor.
yeah,
It's not trivial to keep hot salt in a stainless steel container. And that's just for fission, not for fusion.
they're also using solar to produce water now. I've been reading. Pulls it out of the atmosphere.
And I think the cheap one that I'm familiar with is the fog nets, but there are lots of possibilities.
Yeah.
Dean,
You need
Okay,
fog.
can I show this video?
Yeah, real quick, a quick aside. You need fog for fog nets. But no, what you know, David just struck me when he said the promise of unlimited. I remember when Elk River in Minnesota was built. Oh, we're on the verge of this is post-war, Atoms for Peace, and we're going to have limitless power. It's going to be free. We'll pay you to take it, right? And where did that promise go? And then at the same time, they were telling us that, oh, but this is only interim because fusion energy is going to be the next best thing and hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Now, yeah, we can chat about this while I attempt to get rid of this and get back into my presentation.
Well, I have a question. Um, back in the 70s, 80s, when NASA was studying this, they were saying the rectenna arrays had to be about 10 kilometers by 10 kilometers. I assume that's targeting has improved, but I wonder how big these arrays really are.
I do not know.
If I could attempt an answer to that, my guess is that China is running these tests with array antennas that are small enough to be carried by a drone.
Well,
If I understood what that video was telling me.
well, if I could interrupt real quick, David, the thing I saw floating off the ocean was huge. The rectenna, it was
Yes,
huge.
but that was for a city.
Okay.
The current testing that they're doing at the university in Northwest China, they said moving targets. And I believe he said something like a drone received 178 watts of power, of continuous
Mhm.
power.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now that's about
That'll power my TV and my DVR here.
that's 9 man powers, if you will. I think we generate roughly 20 watts, 100 watts peak, but continuous 20 watts. That's enough to keep a small drone in the air. And what this tells me is that China is funding this research as a potential source of power for drones.
For military applications.
Yep.
Spot on.
There's
So
also, go ahead, David.
with that kind of a funding source, I would expect them to continue this research. But as they said, they might have a power system flying by 2040. What's going to be the price of energy in 2040? Good question. I can't tell you. I don't have a crystal ball, and it's complicated.
Also, something I wanted to add is that on the utility side of things, there's a lot of research going on now of building transmission lines without wire and using the same kind of technology, and even to the point where there's conversation, and I don't know if it'll probably never get there, but people would literally be able to drive around with their car and charge it, while they're driving. And the analogy they gave is telephones. Everything used to have to be wire, and now everybody runs all over the world talking to each other. And so their plan is that electricity will be able to be transmitted without wires, which would solve some major problems of not in my backyard kind of stuff. So, but it in a way ties into the transmission that this video talked about. So,
Doug,
That
you're
sounds like
familiar with
something,
Nikola Tesla?
because Tesla had that dream years ago.
yep,
125 years ago.
yeah, and but
And
they're
it
making it
got
happen.
shot down because it would be difficult to meter the power.
Where do you put the toll booth up to get all that money transmitted to everybody?
Yeah, well, it appears that they feel that it's possible now from what they're talking about.
It was possible back then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I got a little quick story I want to tell here about something I worked on for quite a few years. And Doug, you know about this personal rapid transit. Remember personal rapid transit?
Oh yeah, very much.
I even did the animation for that group. I was working for Ed Anderson and that group that did that, and I did some animation for them. It's on my website. But what they were thinking about at that time was a 16-foot elevated guideway with a small vehicle that would be the size of the back seat of a taxi cab for 3 passengers. And it had to be by government regulation large enough for a wheelchair. And this could be, the nice thing about this is that it would be elevated and it would be stopping at apartment complexes and stopping at shopping centers downtown, for example, instead of like the Skyway down in Minneapolis, you could be getting out right at the stores level of a guideway or whatever. But you'd have an entire neighborhood, an entire city laced with these 16-foot guideways. It'd be like a monorail style guideway that you have at Disneyland, for example.
There was also a second step of that was to just put it between different transportation points, like, stations where buses or light rail was running, and just fill in those gaps. And I always thought it was a really amazing idea.
Well, it seems to have fallen on, I mean, there was a city near Dubai
Yep.
that was Mascar or whatever. They actually had started that system, and it was big. It was a big, but I think the idea of the robotaxi is sort of taking that
Yep.
map.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, whoever is doing the
Doug,
calling
Dean,
on people,
and Tom
Paul.
Trites and David Greider. I got hands up.
Doug is before me.
The only, and jumping off the topic here just a little bit, but I've been talking with and been part of a group for a long time that is talking about we could solve a lot of the problems with transportation and emissions and everything by trying to get more trucks off the road. And of course, ATA, American Truck Association, would probably fight this, but get more stuff on the rail and do things similar to what other countries do. And along with that, and I've shared this with some of you, actually take those railways and turn them into electrical, transmission lines, so the trains could run completely on electricity and not have to have a diesel engine to make the electricity. And then also, get more stuff moved. And they're saying not get away from trucks totally. But if anybody has ever driven to Chicago, I mean, you feel like you're in the middle of a railroad train. I mean, there are so many trucks out there. And especially nowadays, the way, even with all the delivery services and stuff, but it to me made a lot of sense because those trucks put out tremendous emissions out of the diesels. And, everybody in the old days, people ran smaller. Now everybody's running the huge diesel engines. And anyway, it seemed like that was something that could be done. But it sounds like the railroad kind of pushes back against it. But, in a way, it just, makes the darn much sense, I think. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Dean.
Yeah, and of course, railways and the interstate system and all that. Railways, oh no, we're not going to fund railways. We're not going to fund Amtrak. We're not going to support any of that infrastructure. But by God, we're going to make truckers rich. And now it's truckers from Somalia, that are getting, quote, rich.
Yep.
Yeah, no, spot on. And also, there are other ways to power electrical vehicles without having antennas and all that. And it is induction through a dedicated road.
Yep.
Very simple. It requires some engineering. The science is already there.
Tom Trites.
The I put my hand up because I was going to ask about how power from space copes with blizzards
How it
and
copes with what?
thunderstorms. Blizzards and thunderstorms.
Blizzards, not lizards. Okay. Um,
But people don't like trucks. Well, I've driven a truck a little bit, and it's, cars are a much bigger problem in traffic than trucks are.
Yes and no.
The operators are much better trained on the trucks.
They used to be.
They used to be.
Yep.
Okay.
And let me
Even-
interject real quick.
But
We used to see the trucks. It says, "Hey, if you don't like me on your freeway, we pay $8,000 a year in highway use taxes."
Taxes.
Yeah, people have done the math, and yeah, you do 16 or 32 $1,000 worth of damage to the freeways I'm trying to drive on.
Yeah.
Fact.
That's why you see more
Yeah.
trucks nowadays with more axles. Get the weight off the highways.
It's the law.
Yep. Anyway,
it's
A very interesting topic, Carole. Thank you for presenting it to us.
well, actually, I'm not quite done.
Well,
yay.
how
Well-
much more have you got?
yeah.
Well, I have this, yeah, a few slides yet.
Okay. Would you
15
consider
minutes.
finishing the rest of this presentation in 3 weeks when I have an open slot that I would like to fill? And
Okay,
maybe I could throw a couple more videos at people regarding health span, if that's of interest to the group.
okay, I'm looking at 11:48. Why are we trying to shut it down?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at a clock that's 5 minutes later than that. My apologies.
48 is correct, so there's a little time, but not enough for 3 more videos.
Yeah, I have 2 clocks, and one says 15 minutes.
I don't have any more videos.
Yeah.
but
She only had one.
Then I'll shut up and let you finish your slides.
Yeah. Please
Please.
finish.
Okay. Now, I've been trying to be realistic here. Can you all read this?
No,
No.
No. Okay, let me,
you stopped sharing after your video, so you'll have to start sharing your slideshow.
oh, okay. Oh, God.
This is an ad for sending your stuff to Stan and letting him hold it up. Yeah.
Just hang on.
I admire your tenacity, Carole.
In what respect?
Well, you remember the old commercials, "Mother, please? I'd rather do it myself." Yeah.
Well,
I also like your idea of staying with the solar approach. Seems so darn feasible.
But yeah, thank you, Carole, for that video explaining what you've been talking about for a year and a half, or 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah, that video was good, except that good old AI. I've never heard the Massachusetts Institute of Technology pronounce MIT.
well,
That's what the AI. Yep.
I'm
I
trying
really
to
like-
find share, damn it.
I really like the picture of the satellite at geosynchronous orbit, which is 22,000 miles away from the Earth, aimed at the Earth, because it gave you an idea of how precisely that aiming has to be to work well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And made it easier to understand when they talk about 20% efficiency. that he said will increase significantly. But that's not nearly as clear as everything's always getting better.
Okay, can you read this now?
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
Yep.
This is my conclusion that we're never going to get these satellites by depending on the US government. And I have suggested, I think the best way it would work. You can just read this and comment on it.
by the way, Bob Kaufman is presenting us with Elon Musk at the end of the month.
Ah, okay.
This should be good.
Also on Elon Musk. Yeah.
I like that gigatons.
I think that the the problem of the monopoly, the idea of a monopoly, is that it tries to put efficiency in production and transportation and all that against diversity within the human-based side of the labor. For example, NASA really wants to get as many contractors out there in different states contributing to the effort. And whereas they may spend more money, that's why they never saw NASA come up with a solution for coming back or retrieving a space capsule or a booster, because they were going to waste one every time they launched one.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say that idea of being able to bring back and reuse space catch, it's like landing a plane, destroying it, and building another one, and flying back to California, landing and destroying it.
Yeah.
So there is going to be some kind of, you're true, it's right. You're going to have to somehow navigate a path for industry to be able to stay in that monopolistic style at the expense of probably income of labor.
Was ever
Another interesting topic for a presentation.
I wrote this down from Corey with Dr. Rowe. Automation driven by labor is to service quality. Automation delivered by capital is in service to throughput. When capital has a monopoly, it can control the quality and the price.
without government regulation.
Well,
No,
does
not without
anyone
government regulation.
have an idea that would, other than this, that would enable us to get some of this sort of satellite up there?
Look at it from a point of view of human cooperation worldwide.
Yep.
Without incorporating China, I would guess that we're setting up another area of contention. Potentially a consortium of NASA and the European Space Agency and the Chinese government. I believe India is involved in attempting to set up a space program.
Yep.
Who else in the world wants and thinks they need such a capability? Russia certainly used to.
Yeah.
I think Russia still does. Japan.
South
Well,
Korea.
Russia does still have launch capability, don't they?
At some level.
Yep.
But my point is that it makes better sense to look at trying to solve some of the issues about humans in space as a worldwide effort than as a nationalistic effort. And while the United Nations doesn't work that way right now yet very well, potentially it might. Dean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we look at this from a nationalistic point of view. Well, nations ain't going to solve this. It requires a good percentage of the planet and cooperation. And you mentioned UN, and yeah, whatever happened to the UN? I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread when I was a
But
kid.
the veto power on the part of a few nations
Yep.
limits its functionality. And of course, we helped set it up and we helped fund it, and we wanted to limit or at least have more control than everybody else over its functionality.
But we
Yep.
had to give that to the Soviet Union. The only way we could get veto power is to give them veto power.
Yeah, but yes, but
Yes, but
Well, I think this is a very interesting area for discussion. You know, how much of a consortium could you get?
Well, I think that the Chinese are ahead because they don't have as many lawyers in China as we have in America.
Exactly.
They decide that they want to do a fast rail between one end of China to the other end of China, going 200 and some miles per hour. They don't have to worry about getting rights for that pathway. They just take it. Plus, they also don't have the level of sensitivity towards the environment in China as we do.
or
They're,
human rights.
they're in human rights. So, we try to maintain a certain legality and civility to our citizenship, and that sort of pushes back against the ability to mine gold and nickel and titanium and uranium and sodium and all the things that we need to have. We're not really ready to do that to the level that other countries are, and put
So
it up into the atmosphere.
Can you suggest other members for this consortium?
Australia.
Yeah, like David said, maybe India would be a good candidate.
How
India,
about Japan? What are they doing in the way of,
They're starting to remilitarize.
well, I meant in the way of space.
I would
Good
vote for
idea.
South Korea.
We could preach that
Yes.
instead of adding up to their military wealth, add up to their, I mean, that idea of causing all these nations to spend extra money that they don't need to be spending on military to survive, to create a better atmosphere for their life for their citizens seems like a sad reality.
Yeah. What would we do without all that military complex? Jeez.
Thank
Japan
you,
is,
David Eisenhower. Yep, exactly.
yeah, Japan is thinking of going to the moon, and they've done a little bit in that direction, but they're pretty far behind. So they do have some space capabilities.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm looking mostly at funding. In other words, I think we would get most of our technical capabilities from Musk, to some extent NASA, the European Space Agency. But for any other group, we're likely to just, money, come up with a couple of gigatons, buy in on this.
what is a gigaton of money in real dollars?
Well, it's kind of like seconds of dollars.
Okay.
You
Is
know,
that gold bullion or $100 bills?
Depends on whether you're Russia or the United States.
Yep. But yeah, real quick to Stan's comment about China and Soviet Union. By the way, Russia has never put anything into space. Their entire space program is in one of the stands, Uzbekistan, one of the stands, and still is. But totalitarianism is always more efficient than the other, always.
I think Bob Kaufman has always said that too, that there's probably no way you can have the kind of discipline in steering the economy without some form of a totalitarian government.
Yeah.
Are you saying our current government has the right idea?
I would tend to disagree with you there. Totalitarian governments tend to be very bad at.
Well, you would have to say, maybe I'll add this, a totalitarian government that isn't necessarily driven by oil and fossil fuel, but is driven by science and engineers who want it to, you have to have a sustainable energy style of totalitarian government, which I know is kind of, I'm getting crazy now. I'm getting a little bit lucid, but
That's like a good king, right?
A benevolent dictator.
Stan, you hit it on the head a while ago when you said, we've got too many lawyers. We need some more engineers like China has.
I know that's why Elon left California. He wanted to go to Texas because there wasn't so many, he was able to get more elbow room. I remember Elon would complain that for every new law, they needed to take some laws away because they have this history of bad laws. I know Corey Withrow said, as far as security and safety for your internet life or your public life, it goes back to a law passed by the government in 1988 that prevented the government from being able to go to Best Buy to get your record of what kind of videos you've been watching. And or not Best Buy, but Blockbuster. So that's how old the privacy laws are in America, for example.
But I, for one, like privacy laws. I mean, Europe has much better internet control than we have virtually none. And Stan, your point about loving these Elon Musk and et al. is in 180 contradiction between your bugaboo of hating Standard Oil and GM and all that, because in their own way, they are the new GM, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and whatever, in their own way.
Well, okay, I want to go on. Does anybody have,
David had his hand up.
okay? David?
I took it down so that you could go on.
Ah, okay, great.
Dean, you might take your hand down too.
Okay. Why am I betting the farm on solar satellites? And I think this is significant. Isn't there some other way to increase Earth's albedo enough to get by? I don't think so. The best suggestion I have seen for doing it without the power satellites comes from Tony Seba and the guys at Rethink X. They've suggested we can high-tech our way out of the mess with a three-step plan. And this is all very, 20,000 feet view. But they have suggested that we stop raising animals for food. They have got the technology to convert people to cheap fermentation vat raised meat.
We want to convert the people to meat, or we
No,
want to
no, no,
convert them
to
to
eating
eating
such
meat.
meat.
That's
No,
what I
that's a
thought too.
different book.
Yeah.
And they suggest that they will be able to do this because it will be so cheap that it competes with, the animals. Then, when they have all of that land that was farming animals freed up, they engage in a mass reforestation of the freed up land. And they have suggested that this will be facilitated by the cheap robots that are coming online pretty soon now. And then between the mass reforestation and a mass ocean alkalinity enhancement program, by dumping gigatons of pulverized rock into the oceans, which will supposedly suck up tons and tons of CO2.
And sequester it on the bottom of the ocean.
Yes. All of the above aided by ultra cheap energy, AI enhanced robots, and other hand waving just about to be here stuff. That's the best I have found in, people who think they could do it without having the power stations in space. And I think it's all going to take much longer than they think. Basically, that's the problem I have with it, that
Well, but the
by
power
the time,
stations in space
what
are
was
going to
that?
take much longer than you think also, aren't they?
Yes.
Well, they're talking about 2040.
Is that soon enough?
I prayerfully hope. And I think, okay, China was talking about 2040.
And 2060 in that video.
I think that we would have the satellites before we have their program completed.
Well, but if you were going to do a massive satellite electricity program, you need massive photovoltaic panels in space. The size of Spain? No, you get a 5-to-1 benefit by going to space. So a
Right.
fifth of the size of Spain, but that's still a major manufacturing challenge.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, their program is pretty massive as well. Now, anybody know of, a coherent program that's out there that would rival either of these? Who's picking people?
I'll pick me. Well, no, Tom doesn't have a thumb, so or a hand. Tom W.
Oh,
I didn't
I'm sorry.
have my hand up. H Tom, maybe.
I'm sorry. I've lost my thought, whatever it was.
All right, yeah. So I'm actually ahead. Yeah, and here's the problem. I've been agonizing over my being a carnivore all my life, or since I first became aware back in the 70s, Earth Day 101. But the problem is politically, societally, how do you get people to not want to barbecue beef on a warm summer weekend? That's the problem. We vote with our mouths, right? And yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. So yeah, we can grow a beef like, you know, we can turn ourselves into cattle. We can we can produce food in a skyscraper in Manhattan or Brooklyn, and that is edible or semi-edible. But is what about making people happy? Isn't that the goal of society as a whole? To be happy, to enjoy food. We have become a nation of foodies or a world of foodies. And yeah, if all you want to do is get fed like cattle, yes, we could do that more efficiently. But
Part of our problem with food has to do with the way we process it. Manufactured food often is not healthy. It's
yeah,
cheap, but
yeah,
it's not healthy.
it's plentiful, it's cheap, and it also creates a ton of problems. If
It's
I can,
how we market it also.
Yep. That sounds like another topic for another presentation.
Well, but quickly, has anybody out there heard of somebody who's got a program, a suggestion
Yes, I
for
can tell
making
you
a
as somebody
go
who's
of,
got a program and a suggestion. Stop using fossil fuels as quickly as we possibly can.
no matter the cost, because the
Well,
benefits will outweigh the immediate costs.
no,
No,
actually, I like better paying all the real costs associated with the solution.
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, but
We
then
tend
you
to,
get into a scarcity problem.
yes, but
Those that can
we
afford
also
it
have
will
a
have it.
governance problem.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Government subsidizes, incentivizes, encourages particular solutions. And of course, the people who have those solutions like that kind of behavior.
Yep.
But we need to be paying more attention to the future and to giving um, fair competition instead of unequal competition, if you will.
okay, but do you understand the question I'm asking?
What I'm trying to say is that, yes, we've got a number of possible ways of dealing with the issues that are basic that you're trying to solve. The
It's
basic problem you're trying to solve is the cost of energy, isn't it?
it's the will to do it. That's the big problem.
No, the basic problem I'm trying to solve is not going over that cliff where we have dumped so much into the atmosphere that the planet becomes unlivable.
It's not going to become unlivable even in the next 100 years, but it certainly is becoming more difficult to live in certain locations.
I'm not at all certain that that is correct. I think we haven't even gotten to the major problem.
Once we hit the tipping point, it'll go fast.
Tipping point. That's the
Okay.
word.
The one climate problem that can't be helped by power satellites is methane released from melting permafrost. This is the hard one. This is the really scary one. Take a look out there at the data that's available on melting permafrost releasing methane.
What's the most likely way to change the Earth's albedo? Clouds. So they're talking about increasing clouds, right?
Well,
Are
we're
there
going to
other
increase.
ways to,
unfortunately, the volcano solution, increasing the Earth's albedo, by dumping stuff into the atmosphere, that cuts down on all that power to your sunscreens.
yep,
Yeah, that's kind of self-defeating there.
depends on how much and where it happens. Where would it make the most sense to be dumping that stuff into the atmosphere?
Well,
Probably around the equator rather than the poles.
Yep.
you can't just dump stuff into the atmosphere and expect it to stay in one
No,
place.
no, you have to keep doing it. That's true.
Well, I would say that's self-defeating because it messes up your clean solar power.
Well, but if your solar power is in the next band away from the equator, what's the next region?
The
upper latitudes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whatever. Yeah, we know the term.
Anyway,
Well, the big areas with melting permafrost are like Siberia,
right.
Not Brazil.
not Brazil, no. Siberia is the really biggie, but
Northern Canada.
northern Canada, Alaska.
Right.
I know, and
And-
mostly a northern hemisphere problem. Most of the permafrost is in the northern hemisphere for some reason or another.
Yeah.
Well, the reason's fairly clear, isn't it? That's
Because
where the
There
methane,
isn't much in the southern hemisphere, in the far southern hemisphere.
there isn't much land area that had a lot of vegetation
exactly,
decomposed to become methane.
exactly.
Yeah.
It has to do with the land area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brainstorming. So I've been watching a series on, of all places, NBC Peacock, narrated by Tom Hanks. It's called Surviving Earth, and they go through all of the mega extinctions, which will happen in the future. It may or may not be in our future. I mean, Yellowstone is just waiting
Yes.
to do a massive global climate change, and
Yeah.
that might take care of the. And here's my posit. Another way to confront the energy problem is have less people on Earth consuming power. But how do you do that? I know we are turning the curve on overpopulation, and 9 million, 10 million, 12 billion, whatever. It's all, when I was born, the population of the planet was 1.9 billion people. I remember that well. And I remember when it hit 2, and I remember when it hit 3. And I go, ugh. But yeah, will the curve of consumption and population, when will that meet? When do those curves intersect? I don't know.
And obviously, trend analysis works till it doesn't.
Yes. All the people who were worried about the population bomb
I'm still worried about it, but go ahead.
did not predict the,
Well, they didn't predict, Ehrlichman was right, except he couldn't predict Monsanto and bioengineering and all that. The fact that we can grow 20 times as much corn per acre than we
right,
did 100 years ago.
but I'm
we
saying
feed
he
most
did
of
not
it.
predict the extremely low fertility that is showing up in the, well, all over the world, really.
How much of that is effective birth control?
Well, of course. But
And chemical effects on fertility.
Yep.
We have 300,000 unnatural chemicals that we use in our economy, most of which were tested on animals over the course of 2 years rather than humans over the course of a lifetime. The safety of our chemicals, wide open to question. The
yes,
likelihood of the population peaking out at 10 billion has been predicted for a while. As we urbanize and do a better job of educating and employing women.
Yep.
Dean?
Yeah, I also was watching another series on how insects rule the world. And Rachel Carson's Silent Spring is happening right now.
Yeah.
oh, yes.
We're a big
HGTV.
part of the sixth great extinction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
we are the sixth great extinction. Anyway, so out of every three forkfuls of food that you stuff in your face, one of them requires insects through oxygen fixation in the soil or nitrogen fixation, sorry, and pollination, I think is the word. Yeah.
Pollination.
okay, let me read you an interesting thing that I ran into in my studies for this presentation. It says here, studies have shown that cockroaches break wind on the average of every 15 minutes. Even after death, they will continue to release methane for up to 18 hours. In a global scale, insect flatulence is estimated to account for 20% of all methane emissions. This puts the cockroach as one of the biggest contributors to global warming.
You got to be kidding me.
That's
Well,
all insects.
that's good. It saves the cows.
And yeah, in my experience, cows are more tasty than cockroaches. But
Yes.
But not necessarily more nutritious.
nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Bugs,
20%, the 20% was all insects, not just cockroaches.
Yes.
okay. But yeah, insects actually are a really, really good food source. Ask nature. And I have eaten chocolate covered ants. Apparently, they're a felony now to even own chocolate covered ants. But they're actually quite good.
Well, why is it felonious?
I don't know. I just heard that you cannot go online. You can't buy chocolate covered ants. And I've eaten them.
It's that legislation those ants did,